Stock of Russia's largest toy retailer, Detsky Mir, or Children's World, began trading on Friday after an initial public offering earlier this week. The company raised $355 million on the Moscow Stock Exchange, valuing it at around $1 billion. That's being seen as a sign that investors are making a cautious return to Russia. Lyubova reports from Moscow.
It's the first major listing in Russia since sanctions were imposed in 2014 over the country's annexation of Crimea. 70-year-old toy retailer Detsky Mir makes its public debut.
We believe the IPO of Detsky Mir is a really historical event for the Russian market because we haven't had IPO for the last couple of years. It's the first post-crisis IPO.
In a sign investors are making a cautious comeback to Russian assets, nearly 90% of Detsky Mir's shares were bought by foreign investors from the US, Europe, Asia and other markets. The Russian economy returned to growth late last year after 7 quarters of contraction. This was largely helped by a recovery in oil prices. Last year, sales at Detsky Mir rose 30% against a 5% overall fall in retail sales in Russia, and the company has expanded rapidly as some of its competitors went bankrupt in the recession. In the last 3 years, Detsky Mir opened more than 270 stores, with a further 250 planned by 2020.
We're successful in the market because of our wide range of products for children. And of course, it's important that we try to keep our prices low to attract potential customers.
Detsky Mir's listing could encourage other Russian companies to tap into equity markets. However, with Western sanctions still in place, foreign investors are likely to treat Russia with caution. Lyubova, Tier 2 World, Moscow.
Alexander Prosviryakov joins me now from Moscow. He's the president of Whitestone Capital. Alexander, thanks ever so much for joining us here on Money Talks. Alexander, let's start by talking a little bit about Detsky Mir itself. How important is this company as a cultural icon in Russia?
Well, we need to mention it was the first toy store opened in Russia in 1947. In 1957, it built the largest toy store in Europe. It's right in the center of Moscow, and the building was designed and constructed to be a toy store, which is quite amazing. And in 1985, there was a Soviet decision by the state to open a Detsky Mir in every city which had at least 100,000 inhabitants. So you can imagine over 150 cities now had Detsky Mir as the only toy store where I think all the Soviet children used to go to buy their stores. So this is indeed something very special for the Russians.
I was going to say generations of kids have grown up with the store. So could there be more IPOs in Russia now that Detsky Mir has gotten off the ground? Or were there some unique characteristics of this particular company at this time?
Well, there was an SPO right after this IPO of Detsky Mir. It was a Fosagra fertilizer producer, which was 2 times oversubscribed in a period of 1 hour. So there is indeed a huge amount of interest to the Russian offerings from foreign investors. Over 80% of the investors buying the shares of IPO and the SPOs, there already were 2, Fosagra and TMK this year. So there is indeed interest from those investors coming back to Russia after the 3 years of basically the sanctions and the contraction of the economy.
Indeed, possibly a case of greed trumping hate there. Alexander Prosviryakov,